Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are joining us. I am Katie Z here with Luke Stokes on behalf of FIO. Hey, Luke, how are you?
What's up, Katie?
How's it going?
Going well? It's going well.
It is what? Today is the 12th, January 12th. So lots been happening the last week. And, we've been hard at work keeping things moving along here and have a lot of updates to bring to the community. Want to get you guys really familiar with some of the deeper work that's going on and the development side of the protocol as well. And so, Luke, I know there's a lot that you want to cover, so I'll pass the baton early off to you.
Thank you, Katie. Yeah, I was actually asking last minute if our VP of Engineering, Eric, could join and do this call, but maybe we'll get him on a future call. But I wanted to kind of deep dive into some of the tools that we're using. And we covered some of these really briefly in previous calls, but I want to kind of dive a little bit deeper. And then after that, kind of zoom out a bit, have a larger discussion on why FIO matters to the industry and how all this technical stuff we're building makes a difference. So without further ado, I'll just jump right in and share some stuff that we're working on, and then we could talk through kind of why it matters. So again, you've seen this before. This is our Confluence. We're using shout out to Atlassian. They provide amazing technology for nonprofits. So we can actually, as a nonprofit, we're able to take advantage of it. And we can add more and more community members without having to pay a per seat license. So we use their wiki and called Confluence, and their Jira system, which is their Kanban board, quite extensively. So you can see here, this is our master release plan. You can see a lot of details that we've already covered. We've got code names for different releases. We've got the core FIO chain and also the smart contracts, what we call FIO contracts on the chain. And as we talked about before, FIPS, the FIO improvement proposals, are the way that we as a community come together and decide on what changes we're going to make to the protocol. So these are done all open source, all available for everyone to review, for the community to comment on. We have a whole GitHub repo for that. And so these ones in gray are things we've already released, the version 2.20 and all that. We're currently working on this in green, and we have different specifics about how does that impact the APIs for our integration partners, what type of new actions and things of that nature are being added. We have actually a hot fix that we're pushing out. We're pretty excited about. It's one that, in coordination with the community, we spent many, many weeks. There was a certain issue that would once in a while cause some of the nodes to crash, and we really dove in deep trying to figure out exactly what it was. Finally got a great solution for that, and it's not going to involve any kind of chain fixes at all. So very happy to have that. And then this Bahamas release is coming, and we've got some other stuff here as well. Won't spend too much time dwelling on this, but I wanted to show you just the tools that we're putting together as a team and the work that's being done constantly. Another view of this would be the full Kanban board, and this is like the development epics. And you can see here, we've got opportunities. These are things that are open for the community. That would be all of you to participate in if you want to. We have the backlog. We have things that get designed, and then things that are in development being worked on by the team, which you can see is quite a bit right there. And then we have things that are ready for deployment, things that go to testnet, things that go to mainnet. This testnet is now empty because we just finished a rollout to testnet just this week. And thank you, shout out to the block producers who did a great job on that.
What are on this board? Couple things. If we could, what are some of the opportunities that are in there right now?
Actually, let's see here. I'm gonna see if this is the same view that I'm thinking of. This might actually link out to the opportunities, because we have another view that is specific to opportunities. So I don't have that pulled up at the moment, but let me actually see if I can navigate over there. Because if I go in here under projects and we go over to worker proposals, you get me off the cuff here, Katie. Gosh.
I know, but I want to.
Yeah, so no, it's a great question. Oh, we are on opportunities. So viewing the opportunities we have, so like FIO app for the Ledger hardware wallet. This is an opportunity for the community to jump in and say, hey, who wants to help? And we've got a whole write-up here as well that you can read about that. We've had some conversations with some community members who've been interested in that. We've got a WordPress plugin for FIO and WooCommerce. QA test automation engineer, that's a position that we'd like to fill. Conduct usability testing for our integrated crypto wallets. That would be really huge. Smart contract for wrapping. This is actually being developed right now. So we have some links out to where our team is working on this. We've got, what else here? Oh, Oracle functionality for wrapping also being worked on. DeFi interactions with FIO Protocol. There's a full write-up, which I think we discussed last week, actually. Some of these ideas that we're looking at and some of the wiki instructions on that. And then FIO request splitting. This is one that I came up with actually. And let me see if there's a right. Here we go. Here's the actual issue for this. And it's the idea that like if you're a wallet that's integrated and you got a split dinner, you know, it's like a pain in the butt. You've got like 5 people there. It would be super cool to be like, hey guys, I'll pay with my credit card. And then you send out a FIO split where you just go, you know, Katie at Edge, Luke at Stokes, blah, blah, blah. And you just put in the amount and you'd have a little tool that would immediately go, okay, what's the bill? How are you splitting it? And it would just split it and everyone gets a FIO request sitting at the table. And they go, oh, okay, cool. And they just swipe their thumb, boom, paid for it, done. So I'm really excited about this. It's not actually something that we have to do as a team to implement it. It can be done right now by any FIO integrated wallet. And I've talked to Paul at Edge about it. He thought it was a really cool idea, but he was like, yeah, it'd probably be better as a dApp. So this might be something that we do as like a web interface at some point in the future. Anyway, that's quick dive.
Very cool stuff. All right. I'll try not to disrupt.
Another I'm sorry, go ahead.
Well, I bet I spoke too soon. I said, I'll try not to disrupt your flow.
This is another view of the technical roadmap. So again, we're kind of doing a deep dive today in some of the technical things. And this is all available. Everything can be seen up on our Atlassian. But you can see here, these are the things that we've already completed. And these are the things that are in progress. We've got, you know, different pieces of like being able to transfer a FIO address. This here is actually a really big project that involved table migrations and a bunch of very technical stuff involving the block producers. I'm really proud of the community that came together that helped us test this. I just saw a message today actually that that all went really well on testnet. All the data was validated, that those table migrations worked well. And just for when I say table migrations, what's that mean? What that means is if you're changing the design of a system, you've got software that talks to like where the data is stored, the database, the tables, and you change some things to make the tables more performant, so you can have more millions and millions of users on it. Once you change that, it makes it difficult for the software to come and talk to the changed tables. So you kind of have to move all the data to the new tables so that it can talk to the new way of dealing with the data. And that's a pretty complicated process, and it has to be done very strategically and carefully. And you have it done in such a way that once you migrate the data over, you're then writing to both places. So the old code still works and the new code works, and then eventually you migrate the ecosystem to just doing it the new way. So I'm really proud of the team and how they've done the work they've done on this this feature here. So again, that is in development right now, has been pushed to testnet, has been done, tested, and just today I saw a message about the process starting to get that onto mainnet. So that'll be tested on mainnet along with all of these that are part of that release. That's actually called the Bravo release. Then there's additional functionality here. I won't go into all of this, but it's just a great visual view of like, okay, when are these things going to happen? You know, when are these different features going to be available? When are these optimizations coming out? These types of things. And this is just kind of a great view for that. In addition, we have this, each major release has its own release summary. So this is the Bravo release for being able to transfer addresses, dealing with locked tokens so that the foundation could do like private token sales, things of that nature. Making it easier to get more bundled transactions, because right now you have to kind of renew your FIO address to get 100 bundled transactions more. And now this would make it sort of feel like a retail outlet or something like that. You could just buy a whole bunch of bundled transactions as one big group.
For someone who is just hearing that for the first time, can you explain what bundled transactions are?
Yes, thank you. There's so much jargon, man. There's so much jargon, not just in FIO, but in crypto in general. So there's like so many things that, you know, FIPS and bundled transactions and all these, you know, table migrations. So I really love and appreciate that you asked those questions, Katie. A bundled transaction, when I get a FIO address, which would be a username at domain, like Luke at Stokes, I'm able to map all my public addresses to that. I can send decentralized payment requests, FIO requests. I include metadata about that. That's FIO data. And every time I interact with the blockchain, in most blockchains, you have to pay a fee, right? And there's no way to avoid that. If something's free on a blockchain, it becomes an attack vector. And actually, this happened to a blockchain just recently. Oh, it was the I don't even want to mention it. Let's just say when Steam moved to Hive, there was another group of community that decided they want to move to another blockchain called Blurt, and it wasn't well supported by the community. Let's just say it that way. And unfortunately, they had a situation where they had something that was being attacked by people who were just filling the blockchain with a whole bunch of data because they didn't properly set the fees that they needed to be set. I don't mean to disparage that team and that group. I know those things happen and it's difficult. but it's an example why it's, pretty important to have your fees properly set on your blockchain. But at the same time, as you probably experienced if you use Ethereum or any of these others, sometimes fees can be really frustrating and they can fluctuate and be very annoying. And so one of the things that we did with the FIO blockchain is we have this concept called bundled transactions. Every time you get that FIO address, like I have Luke at Stokes, you have the ability to interact with the blockchain a number of times. You get 100 bundled transactions with each annual subscription of a FIO address, which is about $2 a year. And we have a bunch that you can get for free now as well. And so every time you do a FIO request, for example, behind the scenes, 2 of your bundled transactions are being used. And you don't see that in the user experience. For most people that are just using crypto casually, they won't even notice it for the whole year. But those who are intensely using it every single day, they're going to have to obtain more bundled transactions. And it was a little bit goofy if you're like a large exchange or a retail outlet and you want to do a whole lot of FIO requests, for example. You'd have to kind of renew your address many decades into the future to get those 100 at a time. It was just kind of weird. And what we thought would be a much better experience is just to have a method you can call that says, hey, give me 10,000 bundled transactions. And again, those are on-chain fees that are paid by the value, the FIO token. And that's the reason why the FIO token is so important. It enables this whole ecosystem to function. And that rewards the validators, the block producers, to secure the network. It rewards the participants in the kind of larger network, the integrated wallets, exchanges, crypto-enabled endpoints. And it also, a small portion goes to the foundation as well. In the future, and we talked about this a little bit last week, we have a staking model that we're also hoping to take some of those fees and reward the token holders who are actually staking and voting for block producers. So very excited about that as well. So yes, that is adding bundled transactions. So this is just another write-up here of just kind of more of the technical details of what are the changes, what actions are being modified. This is important for integration partners so they can see exactly kind of what changes are happening so they can be prepared for it if there's in case any code changes that they have to make on their end. And yeah, I think that's pretty much it from the deep dive technical stuff that I wanted to share. And then I was going to then go on and kind of talk about why any of this matters. We had a great conversation earlier today with our PR team, and we kind of I went on a little rant, and I was like, hey, let's talk about that again because I'm pretty passionate about it. And it essentially is this. And I'll just tell a little bit of my personal story. My story doesn't relate to everyone else that's in crypto, but I've been in crypto for 8 years, and a big part of why is because I believe in voluntarism, where all human interactions should be voluntary. I think that prior to the blockchain existing, we didn't have a mechanism for global non-violent consensus. And what I mean by that is governments, which are nation state actors, are generally, they share a common characteristic, which is essentially the initiation of force in a geographic region. And whether we agree to that or not, it's just that's the way it is. And they basically force consensus to a degree because you have to agree with the government, or the people with the gun show up and they'll put you in a cage, right? Which is just kind of how things work. And so when blockchain came around, it says, hey, we have a very voluntary way to come to consensus as a group of people. And it's not restricted to a jurisdiction, a geographic location, and it's nonviolent. There's no threats. It's open, voluntary participation. So I'm very excited about that. And I think it's beautiful. And again, it's the reason I'm excited about blockchain technology and cryptocurrency, because I think it empowers individuals to interact with each other in a peaceful, voluntary way. But there's, as we were discussing, there's also a downside to that. How do you get the things you need as a community when there's not somebody coming along and saying, you really need to do this. It's kind of in your best interest, and it's in the best interest of everybody. And we don't really want to force you, but we kind of have to if you're not going to do what's best for everybody. And I know there are definitely a wide range of the use of force when it comes to government. Some governments are probably more like co-ops. They don't really use violence on a regular basis, where of course other governments are pretty bad. And so it's definitely a wide spectrum. But as we think about our industry, there is no central government of sorts that tells how the cryptocurrency blockchain community is going to do things that benefit everybody. When we talk about a shared collaborative commons, there's a great book called Towards a Zero Marginal Cost Society, kind of describes this concept of a shared collaborative commons. There's no way that we can force each other to maintain that commons. There's no way that we can make it happen. What we can do is incentivize it with tokenomics, which we've done a fairly good job of as an industry, within tribalistic boundaries, right? So it's like, I'll do whatever I need to do to make my crypto token go well. And that whole community rallies around that cry. And you get the chain link warriors and you get people that are all fired up about their token. And that's great. But it only works within that community, right? There's a lot of tribalism that comes from that. And you don't get people coming out of that walled garden into a larger space and thinking about the whole ecosystem. And that's something that I think FIO is uniquely positioned to be able to basically provide, because we're not tied to just one community. We're actually working with every single token, every single wallet, every single exchange. We're providing value for all of them. And so in a sense, we're kind of one of the first opportunities to kind of talk about the shared collaborative commons for the whole industry, to say, hey, if we all made crypto easier to use, as an example, what would be the percentage of increase in onboarding at your exchange? How many more people, how many more moms and pops and grandmas would jump in and be like, hey, this isn't so complicating anymore. I think I want to try this out. What would that mean to your bottom line as far as your revenue and ROI for integrating the protocol? These are the type of conversations that we're excited to start having, because we make crypto easier for everybody. The rising tide raises all ships. So I actually was just thinking about, you gave a story just the other day of, was it your mom that was getting into crypto or something like that?
I got her into crypto a couple of years ago. She sold Bitcoin, bought a jacuzzi. So she wasn't a big investor, but she did. She
Awesome.
for her parents, and put a nice fence around the backyard. So she's all proud about that, until then Bitcoin went way up, right? But so then she had none, and I kept encouraging her, like, you want to just like dollar cost average, mom, like just keep buying, and she's been researching herself, and bought herself some Zcash at no conversation with me. And first message I got on Sunday morning from her was that her Zcash is up, and she's all excited. I was laughing about that, and she goes, what? And it was just like, that's really cool. I didn't expect that my first text message from my mother on Sunday morning would be about her crypto. So I'm like, that's pretty cool. So, I mean, anyway, it's just really cool to see the industry this is what bull markets do, which is great too. But there's also like part of where I think we've had this conversation with FIO. It's like, so to your point with the governments, is that, governments are obviously very centralized authorities. And if we're trying to move to a more decentralized economy, more decentralized world, then we have to provide a solution that is as good, or near as good at least, as centralized solutions. So PayPal and Venmo and all of them, they can do this really nice, easy handle for sending money peer to peer, and that's great. And you have your Instagram handle and all of that, and it makes things easy, and hashtags. But how do we then do that in a way that is decentralized, that has the user's best interest in mind? And so that's really where I think FIO does come into play, because crypto's coming whether FIO exists or not, right? And an easier solution is coming whether FIO exists or not. Those are absolutes in my mind. But what's not absolute is a nonprofit foundation coming in and stepping up to say that we're here, but we're going to do it in a way that gives you agency over your voluntarism, as you put it.
I love it. And it's funny because I think it was Casey, like one of our team members, Casey, I think, shared over the weekend, his mom had put in a bunch of money in crypto. I thought it was a bunch of money. I was like, wow, it was a cool investment in crypto. And she was up like $30. And she was all excited about it. And then he talked about how she did a FIO, I think it was either a FIO request or a FIO send. And she's like, wow, that's much easier. And it was like, oh man, get your mom into crypto. It was like the most perfect, like almost cliche, right? It was hilarious. But it's a good reminder. It's always fun for our team. I actually, this past weekend, I spent a good amount of time. I had super fun. I was just sitting on my couch, and I did a tweet and a Facebook post. And I basically was like, hey, a lot of you have known me for a long time. my friends that have followed me on social media at least for 8 years, and I've been talking about crypto for 8 years, since early 2013. And a good number of them have made a good amount of money. Like they've personally thanked me and saying, I'm so glad I listened to you and bought some crypto. And so I kind of introduced it with that, saying, hey, all, if you listen to me, congrats, good job. Now it's time to listen to me again. This is the next evolution of the experience of using cryptocurrency. Come get yourself a free FIO address. You don't have to pay anything or do anything. Download one of these wallets, try it out, leave your FIO address below. And that's all I said. I didn't make any guarantee that I was going to give anything away or anything. And I did this again with my friends. These are people that know me on social media. They've known me for a while. And it was so fun to see my friends respond. And I was like, I didn't know that person even knew about crypto. Like people I've known go, yeah, here's my FIO address, or hey, here it is. And so what I did is I started giving out, I gave $4 a pop. And then I did a FIO request for $1 back. And I did this in FIO tokens just because the fees are really low on FIO, but of course you could do it with any token. And it was super fun. Like a number of people replied. Other people didn't respond to the request because they didn't know about it. And it's another, it's just great feedback from actually using the product to know, hey, we have to get notifications, make that really easy for the apps and the wallets to say, hey, you got a FIO request. And that's actually the nice thing is that's the #1 thing on our roadmap for the steering committee. We always meet every 2 weeks to discuss what we're going to focus on for the development team. And so that was cool. It's good validation. Like, yep, we're on point with that. That is a pain point. We can improve our product significantly by doing that. So that was a lot of fun. And it just kind of, again, reminded me, like you said, it's inevitable that our friends, our families, our grandparents, our kids, all of them are going to get involved in cryptocurrency. This is the future. It's the best form of money ever invented. It's the best ledger ever invented. And the only thing holding them back in many ways is it's just too confusing, too hard to use, too frustrating, these big, long, crazy addresses. And so back to kind of the conversation of this shared collaborative commons, we have this challenge to overcome. And we don't have a central authority like a government to tell us, you all need to stop what you're doing and make this a priority. You need to adjust your development roadmap, stop doing this, that, and the other, and focus on this and make it happen. Solve this problem because you'll all make a whole lot more money and you'll all help a whole lot more people if you just made it easier, right? And so I think we're uniquely positioned, like I said, to be able to do that. And it's just kind of like in the early internet. The early internet for like 10 years didn't have a usability solution. And we talked about this before until the HTTP protocol. That's the thing when you go to your web browser and you type in http://google.com, using the hypertext transfer protocol. It's the thing that talks to a server, sends you a bunch of HTML, and your browser renders it, and you get to see cool pictures and have a form you can fill out and do cool stuff online. And the HTTP protocol was really important to explosion of user adoption for the internet. I mean, look at the adoption. It was like, bing, once HTTP came out. The challenge for us as an industry is the HTTP was funded by CERN, which was funded by government. And again, well, how did they do that? Well, they did it using principles that I personally, according to my story, not saying everyone has to agree with me, but I personally disagree with. I think it's not okay to take people's money under threat of force, which is essentially one way to describe taxation.
Taxation is theft.
Taxation is theft, exactly. And so, it's extortion. It really is. Now, that said, if somebody's doing something nice with the taxes, then we basically go, I don't like it, but hey, I got roads, so I'm happy, right? We won't get too into that, although I could go deep. But it's the idea that as an industry, we don't have someone to kind of fund that stuff and force that stuff to happen. So it just kind of gets pushed along. We all know it's important, but is it urgent? And that's one of the things, if somebody's going to threaten you, it's urgent. It becomes urgent, right? But when they're not going to threaten you, and you're like, well, I'll get to that eventually. And so that's one of the things that we were talking about earlier, is just kind of this rally cry for our industry to say, hey, this is really important to improve usability. It's going to dramatically increase the number of customers you have for your business as far as making crypto easier. And it's our personal responsibility as members of this community, of this ecosystem, to prioritize it and make it a priority. And so one of the things that we talked about last week that I wanted to kind of bring up again as we were chatting about this, Kay, you said, hey, well, let's just talk about it again. I was like, okay, yeah, let's talk about it again. And that's simple send. And this is one of the ideas that we're thinking about. And we actually had a call today with another wallet, or not today, this week, yesterday, with another wallet naming solution provider. And we presented this to them as well. And they're like, that's awesome. We totally want to help with that. Let's get a group together. Let's start thinking it through. And it's the idea that you wouldn't have to like pick a winner for solving this problem that we have in the industry related to making crypto easier to use. And part of that relates to being able to have all of the different wallet naming solutions work together. And so what I mean by that is you go to your wallet, you go to your exchange, and it doesn't matter if you type in Luke at Stokes and it's a FIO address. It doesn't matter if you type in, lukestokes.eth, my ENS handle. It doesn't matter if you type in lukestokes.crypto, my unstoppable domains handle. It wouldn't matter. You just type it in, you get the address back, and you can use the crypto. Super, super simple. And this is something that we've kind of been thinking about. Hopefully this week I can get a little more time to carve out what the spec would actually look like. It's pretty straightforward. It's pretty simple. There's just a simple structure for the send and a simple response that either is what you want or an error message. But I'm going to be spending a little more time on that. And then also hopefully like you see a little code here. I want to actually do like a server-side prototype to even kind of show that this could be done fairly simply. And it's a way that we're thinking as an industry to say, hey, let's get out of our tribal boundaries. Let's think less about, well, I want my team to win. I want to be the winner. It's like, I want the problem to be solved. And ideally, I want the best technology to solve the problem. We all know that's not historically what happens. It's not a technocratic meritocracy where the best technology wins. That said, if we come together and create a framework like SimpleSend, where it's like, hey, all the technologies get to participate at a level playing field. And if everybody integrates the same API and we all participate as a consortia of wallet naming service providers, then it's an opportunity to say, okay, which one's better? Which one gives more features to the user? Which one provides a revenue model for the wallets and exchanges that integrate it? And we can start competing in a cooperative way. And this goes back to that book, Towards a Zero Marginal Cost Society. And it talks about the shared collaborative commons, where it's not going to be what we've seen in the past as far as this cutthroat, crony capitalistic competition. It's actually going to be something a little bit in the middle that's like, yeah, we're competing, we're still evolving, we're still testing and trying new things, but we're creating a situation that when the marginal cost is so low and there's so much abundance and opportunity, we can start working together and have the best product win. So anyway, that's my pitch. And I have a feeling we're probably going to revisit this topic again and again in these weekly calls, because it bears repeating. It's like crypto's too hard. We've got to make it easier. If we make it easier, we all win. And we have to have, as an industry, a path forward to do that. When you think about game theory and Nash equilibriums, it's like, how do you get to a place where everyone recognizes, hey, if we all make this decision, we couldn't have made any more money. We couldn't have benefited ourselves any more than if we all worked together and cooperated. So that's where we're at with it. Thanks for listening to my little spiel.
No, I mean, this is one I'm really passionate about. So definitely going to be bringing it up more because I want more feedback. I want more, I think other people, my assumption is, I think other people will be equally excited and energized about what SimpleSend really means. And so I would love for them to kind of share in that energy and help it, manifest. But, think about it this way. What this really means is that, let's use PayPal as an example, although obviously no one's speaking from any crystal ball here, but say PayPal comes out and they say, here's our, PayPal handle for crypto, which we know is designated to a distributed ledger wallet. But if with SimpleSend, then the exchange would be able to have immediately, well, assuming there's some tech work involved, but for better or worse, they'd be able to immediately have all of PayPal's users using their PayPal handle for crypto onto that exchange, or any wallet, right? With a SimpleSend solution that would then be able to do that. So what SimpleSend would be, instead of just having, so if PayPal brings 1 million users into crypto, and maybe collectively crypto is using, with the naming solutions, I don't know the disparity, by the way, is using 100,000, then by default on day one, once PayPal gets integrated into SimpleSend, you'd have 1,100,000 people. So you're always going to have net positive of any other, because you're representing the collective. So
I love, that's such a great way to talk about it. I love talking about that way, because it's basically, we're always going to be more than the sum of our parts. Meaning if we all come together and work together, there is an opportunity to say, like, everyone like PayPal or any big company that comes in and says, hey, we're bringing in millions of users. And the old paradigm of doing business is create a monopoly, control the monopoly, and dominate the category. And it's like, that's worked very well for a long time. But I think we're entering a new paradigm of how business structures are developed. So instead of, for example, Facebook has 2.7 billion users. Can you imagine if Facebook was an open network where everyone who added value to Facebook, all the advertisers, all the users, actually participated in the rewards as well? Those are the models that I'm seeing in the future, because you get a situation like that, and if another gigantic Facebook comes along or something like that, if you have an overarching model that includes everyone, they're always going to just be a part of the overarching model. And some new one comes in, and again, they're part of the overarching model. And most situations aren't going to allow for that level of totality, full, like, complete participation, because they want to control it themselves. But if you have an open consortia like we have with FIO, a decentralized autonomous consortia, and you've got governance in place to manage that in a way that everyone gets to participate, that's, to me, the only way you could do this type of structure. So anyway, super awesome conversation. I know you got another meeting coming up, and I got other stuff I want to get to as well. This has been a fun conversation this week. Looking forward to bringing more of the FIO team in on these calls in the future. We've had some good talks with our team about writing more content as well. So look out on our blog in the future to have more information coming from our team members. And join us in the Discord. You can go to FIO Protocol IO/chat. That's where the team is at. It doesn't matter if you're working on development or marketing or business development, whatever you're interested in, we've got some people talking about it there. We'd love to see you there. Come and say hello.
I couldn't have said it better. Yeah, and hey, if you don't have a FIO address yet, that's a problem. So go ahead and get yourself one. Go to fioprotocol.io. See our ecosystem, who is already integrated from the wallets and exchanges, where you can get a FIO address for yourself, and then leave it in the comments. And you never know if you get a little FIO love sent your way one day. So anyway, peace to everyone. Enjoy, and we will be back next week. Take care.
Thanks, Katie.
Bye-bye.